some people are deconstructing their faith. I think one of the reasons that this happens is that often we have two different images that come into our minds when we hear the word faith. You know, when we hear the phrase Christian faith, what are some of the images that we immediately think of? For some that I've spoken to, you immediately think of a house. Like Christian faith is a house that you enter into. Or for others, you hear the word faith and it just sounds like vapor. It's abstract. It doesn't have any real concrete sense to it. You're always chasing after it in some way. And I think what's happened is in our desire to want to communicate the credibility of the Christian faith, what we've done is we've used modern categories to communicate it. So what that means is essentially, for those of us who first think of a house, we think, oh yeah, we build from the ground up. We're building from the ground up a particular view of what the Christian faith is, and it's unshakable, it's certain, it's not going to move. And I think what that does is that's created a bit of an overcorrection in that it doesn't properly identify how it is that we come to know. What is a biblical view of knowing? So faith, when we look at scripture, is likened to a mustard seed. It's actually something that grows in us. It's not something that we enter in and then we suddenly see that this doesn't quite fit, or I don't like the colour of the wallpaper, or this room seems too small as I'm growing. And so what happens when we're in particular communities or in churches where we are asking particular questions and we're not receiving answers, and we've been told that knowledge is all about this kind of square box that we have to fit ourselves into, or a set of criteria that we have to intellectually assent to, and suddenly we're met with the suffering in the world, or evil, or someone close to us dies, we suddenly start having questions. And then what if the community that you're in isn't actually able to respond to those questions, because all they can really say is recite all the reasons that there are to believe without actually meeting you in the depths of that pain? What happens then is that people very credibly, with a lot of integrity, actually start thinking, well, my experience and what I hear about who Christ is in this culture, they aren't meeting. And so then they start to separate. And that is part of the root, I think, of deconstruction. Lots of people are deconstructing for very good reasons, and I think one of the key reasons is a defective default epistemology. The way in which we're taught how we know and what faith looks like doesn't quite fit, I think, the biblical grain of what knowing ought to be.